In this video, why do we all think the same way? How many clones do we have? Why don't the laws of the universe work? And how should we relate it to our lives now that everything around us is virtual? Top facts for you, and now let's go!
Everyone will remember the movie The Matrix, where Neo fought for human rights and forced to live a real life and not a simulation.
Indeed, some elements are worked out in our graphics when we focus on them, but more on that later.
But if you think about it in this way,
maybe we are fighting for our rights somewhere now, and we are much smarter than we are modeled to and live in a completely different world.
Maybe we destroyed ourselves, or we were created by some other civilization and we are just their game.
You know, like a civilization game in which we create our state and evolve. Or like GTA, which is more like the movie Free Guy, which is a cool movie and describes how artificial intelligence evolved and started behaving like a normal person. And later, he didn't believe that his world was a game.
Or there may be another scenario.
That is like a long dream, and we are flying to another planet like in the movie Passengers.
Oh, it's a bit of a fantasy, but look at this.
If the world around us is a simulation, then everything is programmed from smells and habits to emotions. You know, while we are in the simulation, we think that all these laws are true. When we have a dream, we don't distinguish whether it's a dream or reality. And even if it's completely nonsense, like you fighting a monster, or you have to find a treasure in depths of space, it's completely nonsense.
The realization that the dream was unreal will only after you wake up, which means that it is not so difficult to deceive our brain.
Bostrom, Elon Musk, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and not only do they believe in the theory that life is a simulation. For example, Nick Bostrom, a professor at Oxford University, says that people who study the mind often think that mental states can be based on different physical scenes. If a system has the right processes and structures, it can have a conscious experience. So, even a computer made of different materials can have consciousness if it is designed properly. Some argue that a computer will only have consciousness if it behaves like a human and passes certain tests, but others believe that it's enough to make a computer act like a brain, even if it doesn't behave like a human in all situations. Well, you will listen to Musk.
If you assume any rate of improvement at all, then the games will become indistinguishable from reality. They'll be indistinguishable. Even if that rate of advancement drops by 1,000 from what it is right now, then you just say, okay, well, let's imagine it's 10,000 years in the future, which is nothing in the evolutionary scale. So given that we're clearly on a trajectory to have games that are indistinguishable from reality, and those games could be played on any set-top box or on a PC or whatever, and there would probably be, billions of such, computers or set-top boxes, it would seem to follow that the odds that we're in base reality is 1 in billions.
You know, somewhere there is a feeling that
our world is a game because it's all very similar to the work of some kind of computer engine, where the power is not enough to calculate with accuracy, to calculate every moment of an oceanic microparticle in space, so it does it according to a reduced model in the form of a wave of probability, and more accurate calculations are made when we look at it.
Do you know something like the movie The Matrix, where
do you remember what kind of world people used to live in that? We are all connected to the same system, and there are even farms where people are growing.
But you can cheat the laws of nature.
The ball falls to the ground and we call it gravity, but if it flew up, it would be anti-gravity. All the laws in physics, math and chemistry are all related to what we have here, on Earth, and in different parts of space, they can work differently and even contradict themselves.
Here is an interesting experiment.
The experiment with two slits through which light was let in to look like several stripes, but also the light was let in only through two slits. the light should have been two stripes in theory, but when they began to be watched for some unknown reason, there were two. That is, they began to behave strangely when they were watched.
But basically, we are only playing with the card that we are dealt.
But back to the experiment, the microparticles also passed through the barrier, but this time physicists made observation on them after passing the barrier, but not yet hitting the projection screen. Imagine that you are standing in front of a screen with your eyes closed, and microparticles in the form of waves pass through the slits. But at the last second before they hit the screen, you decide to open your eyes, and then something strange happens. At this moment the electrons become particles, as they were when they were launched from the electron gun. The electrons behave as if they have gone back in time, as if they didn't pass through the slits, but as if they passed through one. It's amazing.
How does speed affect time?
The next fact is that there is a maximum speed in our universe, also it isn't clear. Why? Thanks to Einstein, we all know that nothing can move faster than photons in a vacuum. The speed of light is a constant in that our world is formed in a very strange way. The faster an object moves, the more its time slows down, which has been proven by many different experiments. Reaching a speed of 300,000 km per second, time stops altogether. In simple words, if you had a spaceship capable of accelerating to 300,000 km per second and you decide to fly to another galaxy that is 3 billion light years away, you would get there in a single moment, because during the flight time on the ship would stop immediately, and 3 billion years would have already passed on Earth. And that is why photons of light moved at speed of 300,000 km per second, and their time is zero. And therefore it is impossible to accelerate even faster, because for greater speed it is necessary to slow down time even more, and it is already at zero.
Why speed and time are related? It's very strange for real time.
But very clear for virtual, because if you live in a simulation, the speed of light is a product of information processing, that is, our world is processed at a certain speed. The processor of a supercomputer processes at a speed of 10 quadrillion times per second, and our universe is processed a trillion times faster. But the principles are essentially the same and time slows down, because the virtual world depends on virtual time, where each processing cycle is one tick.
So, why do we all think the same way?
You remember your childhood, we never stepped on the connection of tiles, and without knowing each other, people came up with the same invention as possible. In 82, Humphrey Davy. In 1815, Joseph Wilson Swan created the light bulb. In 1874, a patent was filed in Canada by a Toronto electrician named Henry Woodward and his colleague Matthew Evans. And 1878, Thomas Edison.
How is this possible, if they couldn't even hear each other's?
And there was no such thing as the internet before, so that we could find and look, so to speak, to find an idea. But there is a feeling of fear, hate, love, and whatever else Will Smith said to the robot.
If you think about it, literature, music and creativity are also the same, and it's hard to come up with something new.
Is your fear of not passing the exam different from the same girl from Australia, who is now retaking her driver's license? If you have been cheated out of money, your anger is not less and not different from the anger of a guy from some tribe whose beads and shells were taken away.
And maybe they copy you and give you different chances to live this life.
Did you know that you are not the only one who's unique? We have at least 7 clones that look exactly like us. That's how Canadian photographers François Brunel searches for clones around the world and makes photo shoots with them.
At the same time, he noticed not only that they're very similar to each other, but also insimilar to character and facts from their biographies. So we get clones and simulations, but there must be something true, you know, like DNA.
A cell is the smallest unit of life, but there is nothing alive inside the cell. It's just chemistry.
Well, every living thing has DNA. Maybe then DNA is life?
Viruses consist of only one DNA, but they can do anything without a carrier, and only when they enter a cell can they multiply. So, it's just information that can make copies.
So our life is just information. that is created in millions of copies. And here is another interesting example.
Let's take a microparticle of light. So until you look at it, it moves in free space and doesn't know where to move. That is, it is in a superposition of uncertainty as if Mother Nature is too slow to calculate the movement of each elementary microparticle in space, and therefore it is all done according to a lightweight model. And only after we start watching it does it become recognizable and its movement becomes more detailed. So, it gets even more interesting. When Einstein was thinking about the theory of quantum mechanics, he proposed a very interesting experiment. The essence of the experiment is that if a system atom emits two photons in different directions, their states become interconnected due to the law of conservation of momentum. This is called quantum entanglement. But what I was getting at is that if the photons are scattered in different corners of the universe, and one of them is monitored, the other one will receive information that it is being monitored quadrillion times faster than the speed of light. And according to the laws of physics, nothing can be faster than the speed of light.
Then, should we consider artificial intelligence alive?
And by the way, it also evolves to survive in its virtual world. Watch the next video.